Hi, this is Dr. Victoria Andarcia. Thank you for joining me again on the Healthful Roots podcast. Today I have Kristina von Oertzen, who is the owner of Bloom Lab. Hi, Kristina. Can you please introduce yourself?
Hello, thanks for having me. Yes, so I'm a certified nutrition coach, showing food lovers how to indulge without the consequences. I work primarily with women as they're entering perimenopause, but then all the way through until after they've gone through menopause. And I'm on a mission to show women how to enjoy their midlife years without excessive workouts or always saying no to dessert, because I love food. And I refuse to see menopause as the killjoy, thinking about every bite twice and always feeling guilty. For me, it's all about strategic exercise and efficient lifestyle tweaks that are tailored for the busy schedules that we all have these days.
Yes, and I love that. Who doesn't want less workouts and more flexibility to eat the food that you like? In your website, I think you
Exactly.
mentioned something about croissants. I love croissants.
Yes, me too. Especially here in Portugal, they're very popular. Never eaten
Yeah.
that many.
Yeah, they're very good. On your website, one of the things that you mentioned was a little bit about your journey and what got you to doing what you are doing now. Would you mind sharing that with us?
No, so I keep it brief. So growing up, I basically had no clue how to feed myself and what medications can do to your body. And I was put on the contraceptive pill when I was just 15 to handle my painful periods. And then I took so many rounds of antibiotics that I'm now allergic to most of them. And
Mm,
this then also completely destroyed my gut microbiome. I then topped it all off with taking an unreal amount of painkillers and prescription medication, especially after I developed chronic migraines. And then I
mm.
had a colon biopsy. I became lactose intolerant in my 20s, histamine intolerant in my 30s. I tried everything to get on top of it, but nothing ever helped. And then in my late 30s, just before the onset of perimenopause, it came all crushing down on me. And I looked absolutely horrible, was totally gray in my face. I
Mm.
felt very weak and I was very depressed. I just thought, what's the point of living? This is just not a life worth living. And I knew that something had to change. And this is when I got help. And the first thing I did is we looked at my nutrition. And then I healed my gut, which was very important, crucial for my health. I detoxed my life. I started weightlifting, which really has made a massive difference. I reduced stress. I prioritized sleep. And the change was incredible. It was just like me feeling like I was a new person. I had all of
Yeah.
my will to live back. I looked completely different. You could see what all this good food was and this healthy lifestyle was doing to me. But it took many, many years of absolutely needless suffering and long hours then to research and to figure out how I can help myself. But once I knew it and I knew what to do, it was like really easy. And that's why I'm so passionate about it, because I love showing other women how easy it is to feel comfortable in your body and peaceful in your mind and full of energy.
I love all those things. But one of the things that stood out is that you said that you reduced stress in your life, which I know is
Yes.
really, really challenging for a lot of us. How did you do that? And how do you tell your clients, like, what are some of the tips that you give them to reduce stress?
Those are actually not as easy. Yeah, so but it is the common problem. We just,
Yeah.
I want to blame as all the new technology that we have around us. You constantly think there's something that you need to do, and usually not doing the things that are really important. So it's really just being aware of how much you
Mm,
stress. This is the first point, and then just really, I call them like little islands of around your position them in your week where you really can relax and you know it's okay. And even if it's just 10 minutes sitting on the sofa and doing nothing, not looking at your phone, just thinking. Yeah. Of
yeah.
course, it's great to meditate in the morning and all of this, but sometimes even that can cause stress if you think, oh, when should I do my
Yes.
meditation? And yeah, so sometimes it's really just think about, okay, what can I do? Where can I get these 10, 15 minutes of peacefulness out of my day, maybe sitting outside, having a coffee in the sun, going for a walk, and planning. Planning is super important. That you just really think about, you have this one day when you just think about the next few days, or maybe on the night before, you think about your next day. So what's happening? What can I do to make this all easier? Who can help me? Yeah, also something we all
Yeah.
forget. Who can help me? Can my husband, partner, my children, my friends? People are usually quite open to helping. So just ask for help and see how you can make things easier. It's not that we need to do everything.
Yeah, I agree. That's another thing that I see. So I'm glad that you brought that up. Um, and then also the meditation being being something that can cause stress if it's just another to do, but
Yeah.
it's easy to just sit on the couch for 10 minutes or sit outside. So that's good advice. Okay, I got a little off
Yeah.
track because I was hoping that you had a quick fix for me. But
Do
so
you
you,
have a quick fix now?
well, now I'll feel less bad about not meditating on the days that I don't have the time
Yes,
for
it's
that.
absolutely fine. Yeah.
I'll just sit on the couch.
Yeah.
Um, so you work with women mostly in perimenopause and menopause. What exactly drove you towards that population? Was it that you were going towards going through it yourself, or was it something specific that attracted you to that?
It was naturally happening because I was working with women. I started with just calling that my target audience. Basically, I'm working with women in their 40s, but then it became very clear these are all women going through hormonal changes, and then I just made it a little bit more specific so that people actually realize, okay, yes, perimenopause, that's a big topic. Menopause, it's a big topic. It's not just being in your 40s. It's actually much more amount around your hormones, my work, and to balance them.
Okay, well, so talking about that, what are the biggest misconceptions women have about their bodies during that time? Bodies, nutrition.
Yeah. I think the biggest misconception is that menopause is happening sometimes in your 50s. And because in fact, and you know this, it's starting almost a decade earlier, and for
Hmm.
some it can start in your 30s. And this is what something that also wasn't clear for me. And now that I know and look back, there are so many signs, so that it was starting. So this is something that is really important to realize, and that yeah, so that you just notice these first changes, and realize, okay, this is what's happening. This could be perimenopause.
And what are some of those symptoms that you see most commonly that women might not recognize as perimenopause?
I mean, the list of symptoms is so long. It's getting every time you look at a source, it's longer. So I
Yeah.
think the last one I had was something like 34 symptoms, but I now have a much longer list. I think it's about 50. It's basically your body is full of receptors for mainly estrogen. Um, that's what's making the difference. And then when your estrogen levels decline, and they do this like in a very erratic pattern, it is go
Hmm.
down like, and while it's going down, it's going up and down all the time. So sometimes you have a surge, sometimes it's very low, and this is affecting all areas of your body. I think the most typical symptoms obviously are hot flashes and night sweats. So it's like a change in your temperature, but it's also that your periods change. So if you're tracking your period, which I would recommend everyone to do, like all women, is that you just see, okay, so maybe your cycles are getting shorter, they're getting longer, you're skipping a period, and this can still happen when you're in, or absolutely happens when you're still in your reproductive years, or when you're maybe still thinking about getting pregnant. Yeah,
Yeah.
so this is what happened to me. We were still trying for a baby, and then just imagine that, and then you realize, oh, I didn't have my period for 3 months, and you're already getting excited, but it didn't have anything to do with the baby. It was just perimenopause.
Mm.
And so that's a real telltale sign. But there's other things like, for example, joint pain. It's that you're losing your muscle, because that's decreasing with age and it's accelerated by hormones, and all sorts of changes with your digestion. You can be more reactive to foods. It's
Hmm.
it's a very long list. So what we identify, so if I'm just looking around my clients and friends, is that if you have some kind of a weakness already, this usually will be accelerated when you're going through hormonal changes. So for some, this could also be depression. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really listening to your body and just take note of all the changes. And usually, if there are like 3 to 4 changes that come from all different directions, rather than going to different doctors, just go to like a hormone specialist who
Hmm.
specialized in menopause and talk to them. And most of the time, it's related to that.
Yes, I agree with that. And one of the most common things I hear in my practice is I am eating the same as I always have. I am working out the same as I always have. And I can't get rid of this weight, or now I have really bad bloating. What would you say to that patient?
Yeah, I mean, bloating is something really common that's happening because our hormones change, and that can have an impact of your digestion. Which so it could mean that it's getting a little bit sluggish,
Hmm.
and if food is staying inside your digestive system for longer, it has more time to ferment and create gas. So maybe before hormonal changes, it took a day to pass through you, or maybe just a few hours in some cases. And now it's taking 2 days. And then, of course, if it's sitting in you, it's reacting. And then the other thing is that you might be more reactive to food because if you're changing hormones. So that's whatever. You could always eat dairy and suddenly you get bloated from it. And so this is the problem with bloating. But okay, so that's why it's happening. But what can you do about it? This is very more interesting. So definitely stay active. So movement is good anyways. But the more you move, the more opportunity your body has to get rid of excess gas. It's really important. Sitting down for long hours is the worst you can do because then it just really starts to build up. Eat enough fiber, but if you're someone who hasn't eaten enough fiber before, it's usually in vegetables, and then you introduce a whole load of fiber. This can then also backfire, and you can have even more bloating. So if you do this slowly, but this will help speed up your digestion, and it just passes through quicker. Drink enough water, which will then also help to reduce the time that it's sitting in your body, and identify foods that are causing problems. So that keeping a food diary for maybe a week or two is really helpful, so that you can see patterns and you see, okay, it's whatever. For me, for example, it's dark chocolate. It's very high in histamine. So as
Mm.
much as I like and love chocolate, I know that I always be bloated afterwards because it's my body is reacting to the histamine. So it's good to know the triggers, and then you can
Yeah.
consciously decide, okay, I'm having this piece of chocolate. I know the consequences, but
Yeah.
I go in it with open eyes.
Yeah, that's true. And that's like a hard thing that people don't really realize is because if you're eating something for a long period of time, you don't really realize until you remove it and then add it back in how uncomfortable it was actually making you feel.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
one of the things that I do is I recommend the elimination diet, right? Where you eliminate,
I
a bunch
love
of
it.
food groups,
Yes.
right? And then you reintroduce it because I think that sometimes people will tell me, like most recently, well, I eat peanuts all the time, and yeah, like maybe like my hands hurt a little bit, but it wasn't until she took it out and then put it back in that she was like, no, actually, it's causing a lot of symptoms. I need to stop this.
Yeah.
Because you
And
just get used to
yeah.
feeling a certain way.
Yeah, and this is really an important point. And this is I always start with my clients on some kind of an elimination diet. It's not a full blown elimination
Hmm.
diet. The one that I did when I was going through my issues was very strict, and I had like about 5 or 6 foods only that I was eating at the beginning. But it's sometimes if you put someone back to basics, and you feel how you are supposed to feel,
Yeah.
it's such an aha moment. It's a delightful moment because you just forgotten how great you can feel. But then when you reintroduce it, that's actually really important because then you see, oh God, this is how bad it makes me feel. And now I realize it. So it's an important part of it. And I love that you like it so much. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's better than, I mean, the food allergy testing is great, but I
Mm,
think that you almost don't really appreciate it until you remove it and then like add it back in, right? I
yes,
think like that's when you
absolutely.
notice it.
Yeah.
Okay. And so then the
Yeah.
main thing, what about like weight gain? How do you address
Yeah.
that during that? Because I know that that's one of the most common complaints, and they might be eating healthy and still gaining weight. So, what are some of the reasons for that?
One is just, again, a mindset shift so that you see food as nourishment. So I don't want you to see food as your enemy. I also don't want you to see food as a treat, and also don't see food just as calories. So
Hmm.
food is there to feed your body. And this is really the main reason why we're eating, because this is like it's everything in our bodies is dependent on the food, all of the functions in the body. So this is what food does to you. So the more healthy and the more high quality the food is, the better the outcome, the better you feel. And then feed your body with a balanced diet. So plenty of fiber, as I already mentioned, protein and carbs. So I don't think that carbs don't have their place. It is, we are a little bit more sensitive to carbs as we go through midlife, but they play an important role because they give you energy. So one energy source is vegetables, but the carbs are also an important energy source. So I'm absolutely against cutting them out completely. And as a general rule of, so I always tell my clients, just look at your plate and then half of the plate, fill that with vegetables. And this is where most people already fail, because we
Yeah.
all know what the carb portion will be and what the protein portion will be of our meal, but no one's really thinking about the vegetables. They come as an afterthought, and then maybe whatever, you throw some salad on it. So really think about, always started from the vegetables, and then half of the plate is vegetables. And then the other important part is a protein, because as we age, we actually need more protein than before. So put that protein on your plate for every meal, including breakfast, especially breakfast, and
Mm.
especially after workout, so that your muscle can be built from the protein. And then a small portion of carbs. In terms of amounts, it's about 100 to 120 grams of protein that you need per day. And that's, if you're tracking it, you will very quickly see it's difficult.
It's
But
hard
the
to
other
do.
good thing, yes, as even I always have to force myself to think about it. But the great thing about protein is this also keeps you satiated. So if you're looking to lose weight, this is your secret weapon. Make sure you eat that protein, especially on the or with the first meal, because you will not have as many cravings, or maybe no cravings at all, for the rest of the day. So that's in terms of nutrition. Then the other big thing is build muscle.
Hmm.
Really focus on building muscle. Muscle is your insurance policy, because the more muscle you have, the more calories you burn. Is the best thing ever, because you burn calories all the time, not just during your workout when you build muscle. Reduce stress. We already talked about that. It's really important. And prioritize sleep. So sleep is, the older we get, the more deep we get into menopausal territory, the more important sleep gets. So it's really, and it's a something that a lot of us are struggling with, is getting that restorative sleep, where you
Yeah.
just sleep through the night. So really prioritize that. Go to bed as early as you feel tired. For some people, this can be 9 p.m. Yeah, there's no need to push yourself. Yeah, and so that you get you around 7 to 8 hours sleep. That's really important. This will make a massive difference. So actually, I looked it up before so that I give you the right numbers. But if you are regularly sleep deprived and you sleep around 4 to 5 hours, people who do that will consume on average 400 to 500 extra calories per day on the next day.
Oh,
And
wow.
that is a lot. Yeah. If you think about some women trying to follow a 1500 calories diet, if you're eating 500 calories more, that's making quite a difference.
Especially over a long period of time. Yeah.
Yes. And you can get it as easily as just sleep. Doesn't cost you anything. Yeah.
Well, I in that age group too, I find that sleep becomes more challenging too because some of the
Mm.
symptoms that they're having, like hot flashes, or it just becomes harder. Do you think that nutrition plays a role in being able to mitigate some of these symptoms?
Yes, it does. It's very important that you think about what you're eating in the evening, and that you're not eating too late, so
Hmm.
that you give yourself a good 2 to 3 hours to digest before you go to bed. And you notice, most it's most noticeable if when you're going for dinner, you're going out for dinner, and you have a late dinner, you have dessert, and then you go to bed pretty much straight after. And then sometimes you wake up at night because your body is digesting and it's focusing on digestion. And then you wake up because whatever, your tummy is gurgling or you're feeling really uncomfortable. So get that out of the way. Think about something light that is easy to digest in the evening, and that you're not reacting to. And a small portion of carbs can help you produce melatonin so that you can drift off easier to sleep. So that you can do from a nutrition point of view. There are loads of other things, of course, you can do to help with sleep.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm just going to say one thing about like the weight gain, especially the belly weight, because you did mention how stress is important to mitigate. But I find, I mean, everyone is stressed, but I feel like the women that I work with that are like perimenopausal or many menopausal, they have children at home still, they're running businesses, or if they're not running businesses, they're doing like high intensity workouts and a lot of cardio. And what people don't realize is that stress is not just like that feeling of stress, because you might be putting your body under a lot of physiological stress without really realizing this is stressful for me. Or, you're not sleeping, that's also a stress. Or your relationship, with your husband and your friends and your kids can be stressful, and that increases your cortisol. And so like those shifts in cortisol can also affect your ability to, lose weight. So sometimes, like you
Absolutely.
mentioned
Yeah.
at the beginning, less is more. So can you talk about that, like less is more part, how, like, in terms of like workouts? And then I think like with nutrition, people are like, oh, I'm going to try like the keto diet, or I'm going to do this diet, or I'm going to try, fasting for 18 hours. But you said something that was important, is that you need to see food as nourishment and not particularly a diet, right? Because this is how we should be eating anyway. Okay.
Yes.
So that,
Yeah. In terms of exercise, it's really important that you, or both exercise and nutrition, that you're not adding even more to your daily stress. And you can do this very easily if you are someone who is running to whatever, spinning or these really extreme cardio classes. I remember when I was in London, I always went to Body Attack, which was one of those classes where you literally crawl out at the end. And I felt really great. But
yeah.
then you just feel very, very, very tired afterwards. Then you get this initial boost, yeah, because your body releases some happy hormones that make you feel great, but long term is not great because this
Yeah.
increases your stress level. And then you can even put on weight from doing these classes because your body is it's adapting your metabolism. Or like if you regularly do this, so if for example, whatever Body Attack is something you do every week, your body knows that you come with this extra energy demand, and our bodies are very clever. So because it's all about survival, they will then down regulate your metabolism so that you burn fewer calories overall to compensate for that. And this is exactly going in the wrong direction. This is why I'm such a big fan of weightlifting, where you're building muscle, because your body is also reacting to that. So your body knows, okay, it's difficult to lift that weight. What can I do to make this easier? Oh, I'm building muscle. So, but this time you're burning more calories because you have this extra muscle. So it's a really clever way to make sure that you overall burn more calories and keep on top of your weight gain or loss.
Yeah. I tell my clients, muscle equals metabolism. So
Yes.
that is a good thing
Yeah.
to focus on. And then, as far as the lack of energy, how do you help your clients navigate this? Is that a lifestyle issue, nutritional, or both?
It's a bit of both. I usually start for all of my clients. I start them on a nutritional cleanse, as I just briefly mentioned, because it's a really great tool to bring your bodies and hormones back into balance, which is key at almost at any age, but in particular during the menopausal transition. And it's nothing drastic. It's this is not a cleanse where you're fasting. This is a cleanse that does the opposite. It just feeds your body and provides your body with everything you need. So all of the nutrients that your body needs to thrive, to feel in top form. And this is really such a nice experience for them, because most of us just don't know how to feed our bodies properly. And if you're forced to do this in a relatively short time, so this can be just as short as 10 days, but for some, if it goes well, you can do this up to 3 weeks, and it's really great to do this several times a year. Then you just basically fill up your body with all the nutrients it needs. And usually about 5 days into the cleanse, they get this massive surge of energy. And it's always happening. I'm always sitting there thinking, oh, is it happening or is it not? And it's always happening. I had some people who were like really euphoric. They just couldn't believe how much energy they had. And this is just through food.
I was going to ask you
has
that.
everything that it needs. Yeah? So you provide all the nutrients, because this is what we need. We need vitamins and minerals to feel good and to have the energy. And so that makes a big difference. Of course, other factors like stress and sleep play a role. Even if you do the cleanse and you only sleep 4 hours, you will be tired. Yeah, so you cannot do just miracles. It's an overall balance that you need to keep. Yeah?
Okay. And one of the topics we haven't talked about yet on this podcast, but I saw it on your Instagram, and I think it's important to bring up. It's how alcohol can impact your weight loss efforts and metabolism.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it's one of my favorite topics, alcohol, but it's a hot topic, because everyone's like, what? I can no longer drink my glass of wine, but it's really it's working against you. It reduces your calorie, burning of calories the next day, I think by about 70%. So it really has an impact on your metabolism. I even dedicated a whole masterclass to this topic. So if anyone's interested, it's called Cheers to Health, and shows you what you can do to still enjoy that glass of wine, or also explore options if you just want to become teetotal and no longer drink alcohol at all. But it has just a really big impact on our hormones. And especially when you're taking HRT, you need to be very careful with drinking excessive amounts of alcohol. So I'm not talking about one glass of wine Saturday night. I'm talking about women who are drinking several glasses. Basically, it's the nightly ritual. But this is very popular. It's especially in mummy circles. It's almost like you almost feel like it's a fun thing to say. Oh yeah, and I needed my glass of red wine, and this is how large it is, because to wind down. And you're not doing yourself a favor when you do that. It's impacting you on every level, not just your liver, but it can also increase your risk of breast cancer. It affects your skin, your heart, your brain, everything. So it's really a good idea to think about the relationship you have with alcohol, and then just practice a bit more mindful drinking.
Yeah, I agree with that. And one of the other things is and I hear this too, like some people need a glass of wine or whatever to like wind down at night, but actually it impairs your sleep, right? So you're falling asleep easier, but it's affecting your deep sleep, your REM, and all of that. So that is important to know as well. But that metabolism part where you're decreasing your calorie burn by 70%, that's insane. I did not realize it was that high.
Obviously, it depends on everyone's body composition, but it can be as bad as that. So I think that plus the increased breast cancer risk, those are the things that really keep me from drinking. And the impact on sleep is a really bad thing. And it's because that's another misconception, because so many of us thought I drink and then I can't sleep because I can fall asleep. And it is true.
Yeah.
It's true. I mean, sometimes on the way home in the taxi, you already fall asleep. But you have this initial deep sleep, and then you have these micro wake ups for the rest of the night. So it's maybe the first 2-3 hours that you sleep like a stone, and then you keep waking up. And this is why you feel so groggy. You usually don't remember that you're waking up. But you can see it if you have a fitness tracker. Like I can see this on the Aura Ring.
Yes.
And you can feel it the next day.
Yeah, that's true. I have an Oura Ring and I've seen that.
Yes, it's fun.
Not
it's
worth
really,
it.
It's impressive. When you
it
see
is
that.
impressive. Okay. And so I have like two questions, and then I want people to know like how they could work with you. For
Mhm.
women who are starting to experience menopausal symptoms and they're realizing it, what would be the first steps they should take to manage the changes?
I think the first thing I would do, and I would recommend to everyone, is go, and if your mother is still alive, go talk to your mom. Yeah, just see how did she experience menopause, because you get a lot of intel from her. If she's no longer around, and maybe you have an aunt or a grandmother or whatever, just see what's the family history. And then really start paying attention to changes. I mentioned these subtle changes that can happen, and it's really it gets you. It takes such a long time until you realize that it is hormonal changes. So really, like I would say, even from your late 30s, I would start paying attention and then take note of changes, and then start talking with. I really think we should all talk about menopause or perimenopause a lot more. So start talking with your friends, with your family, especially with your girlfriends. And this is what I'm doing these days. We're only talking about, about menopause. But you get some, like everyone shares their story, and A, you no longer feel so alone. And B, there's some things you didn't realize. And then if someone tells you about their experience, it becomes more obvious to you. Obviously, there's a lot of really great books that you can read about the topic, because it's very important to educate yourself. I'm launching a course at the end of this month or beginning of next month, which is called the Menopause Playbook, where I'm just giving you a lowdown of what's happening in your body, because I think it's so important. We all lack this information to know what exactly is happening. Can you explain menopause to me? And if not, then educate yourself so that you know exactly what are the menopause symptoms, so that you can identify them. And then if you go and get help, then don't let anyone brush you off. It's really
Yes.
important. Yeah. So go to someone you trust, like you, and who takes you seriously. Yeah. Who takes the concerns and the symptoms that you share seriously, and actively helps you, and not someone who's whatever darling you and then just say, come on, and here's some antidepressants and it's all in your head.
Hmm.
Which is, I mean, you read this everywhere, but it is because it is happening. This is what's
Correct.
happening. Yeah, people are just not taking it seriously. But it's starting now, and this is great. And I do everything I can to support that, because I really think we need to step into the power by knowing what's happening to us, and then dealing with it in a more confident way. Obviously, because you're asking about what exactly can they do. So if you notice the first symptoms, it's really then important to look at your lifestyle, so that you just look at your nutrition, you look at your exercise, and then adapt it to this new phase in your life. So you can then maybe no longer go to CrossFit that often, because your body needs a little bit more rest and relaxation. Maybe switch this to weightlifting,
Hmm.
like in a dedicated weightlifting session, rather than just doing whatever. I've never done CrossFit, but I've watched people doing it. But I think it's just doing whatever 5 quick squats and then go to the next station. So do something where you properly do the moves, maybe with a personal trainer who shows you how to do them in the right way, so that you don't injure yourself. And so look at your exercise, your nutrition, and just look at your general stress level and sleep. So the usual lifestyle, it changes, but adjust them to that period in your life.
Yeah, I think that is really good advice because things do have to change to support you during that time. So
Yeah.
taking inventory is important. And you've talked a lot about balance. So this was one of my favorite questions. What's your favorite indulgence that you refuse to give up? And how do you fit it into your lifestyle guilt free?
So I've already said it, I'm a big fan of chocolate. I love it in
Yeah.
any form that it comes. Yeah. So I love the dark chocolate in a mousse, in a brownies. And this is just something I need chocolate in my life. I'm definitely not giving up on that. I have in my weight loss program, I have this concept, and it's called worth it treat. So this is my worth it treat. It's every calorie in that treat is worth it. And if you balance this out with otherwise healthy nutrition, so if like whatever 80 to 90% of the time you're eating healthy, still delicious meals, you can absolutely, without any guilt, eat something that is more in the category total rubbish. Yeah. So where the only thing you get from it is joy. but it's also important to get joy from food. It's something we're bonding over. If you go and meet your girlfriend and you share a piece of cake, these are the
Yes.
highlight moments in your life. Yeah. So and they are important. So this is what of course, you don't have 20 of these moments in the week, because then it's definitely no longer a worth it treat. So maybe like 2 or 3 moments where you just eat something that you really truly enjoy.
Yeah, I
And
agree
yes,
with
for me, it's
that.
chocolate.
I like chocolate and I love chocolate croissants. Those are,
Oh gosh, yeah. Or pain au chocolat is also really nice. Probably something you like too. Yes, I mean
yeah.
chocolate croissants are just so nice. They're so delightful. I usually put butter on it on top. Buttery croissant with butter.
Oh,
Yeah, try
yeah.
it. Really good.
I'll have to try that. But yeah, so thank you so much for coming. And I just want the audience to know that aside from the menopause playbook, what are other ways that they could work with you or reach out if they had questions?
So I offer private coaching, but then I have some programs. So the Menopause Playbook is a new one that I'm currently working on, but I have two fabulous other programs. One is focusing on weight loss. It's 8 weeks to successful weight loss facing menopause. And then one is about detoxing and gut health, which is just that missing part that we all need to bring our gut microbiome into balance. And it's all about how you detox your environment and you have like a long-term health. The nutritional cleanse is introduced in that program. So I'm a big fan of both of these programs because they really summarize all of this, what was demanded by my clients. And it's in a self-study option. So that in addition to private coaching. But
Oh,
I
that's
also have
great.
something for your audience. If you're interested,
Oh,
a little
yes.
freebie. Yeah. I have a free guide where you can link in the show notes, because this is for me the most important thing, and I know that this is like a lot of people, or women in particular, have a broken relationship with food. So I have this free guide with simple hacks to sail through menopause, stay energized, and enjoy your favorite foods. So where I'm talking more about the worth it treats method,
Hmm.
and I'm showing you, I gave you some sample meal plans, some recipe ideas, and generally what's happening to your body. So it's a cute little guide where you get all the information that you need to get you started.
Oh, that sounds great. And I'm sure that they would love that. So I'll definitely link that
Yeah.
in the show notes along with your website and your Instagram so that they can follow you along. I love your
Awesome.
Instagram videos, by the way.
Oh, thank you. That's good to hear. Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you so much for joining me. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I think it's really important because, like you said, we don't talk about it enough. So I think this will be definitely of benefit for the people who listen to my podcast.
Yeah, it was fun to talk to you. Thank you for inviting
Yes.
me.
All right. Thank you, Christina.